Welcome to the show, everybody. Joseph Robert, the Fantasy Football Counselor. In this video, we're talking about Nick Chubb Fantasy Football value for 2020. Going to give you guys all the details about him, if you should draft him, my thoughts on him, is there going to be a decline, everything you need to know about Nick Chubb for Fantasy Football 2020. Before I get into that, guys, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up. I'm taking a lot of time here to make sure you guys get all the details on every fantasy relevant player so that you guys can make a proper decision on if you want him on your roster or not for Fantasy Football 2020. So please smash that thumbs up. And of course, get the 16-round draft solution at thefantasyfootballcounselor.com. This is the game changer, guys. It's going to give you a competitive advantage over the competition. You're going to absolutely dominate the competition. 16 rounds at thefantasyfootballcounselor.com, or there's a link here below. All right, so let's get into this, guys, and leave your comments. Also, guys, I encourage comments. I try to get back to as many as I possibly can, keeping it real with you guys. I give you guys a verdict at the end of these exclusive player videos that I'm doing, these Impact Series videos. At the end, I give you my verdict, but I want to get your comments. Would you draft Nick Chubb? Want to hear your feedback, okay? So let's talk about Nick Chubb. I mean, he had an outstanding 2019 season, finished 8th in PPR, pretty good, 255 fantasy points PPR. Now, rushing, he was phenomenal, 1,494 rushing yards, 8 touchdowns. He looked good. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. He looked good. He's a pure runner. He's got a coach that believes in him this year, and he's probably going to run him to the ground. So the opportunity seems good, but there is a but, and there's a big but, okay? So I want to talk about this. So if you look at his stats last year before Kareem Hunt came back, and you've got to talk about this, right? You cannot deny Kareem Hunt's talent, and you cannot deny Kareem Hunt is there. When I look at any running back, I look for a running back that's in a minimal committee. So this is very, very important, guys, what I'm about to tell you here. Always when you are looking at any wide receiver or any type of running back, you got to look at a running back that's in a minimal committee and doesn't have a guy that's equally as good as them in talent and can take away at least half of the volume. And that is exactly what happened with Nick Chubb last year. Half of his volume was gone. That's just the bottom line when it comes to fantasy points and PPR. So this is a very important fact here. 6 out of the 8 games they played together last year, okay, in 2019, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, they played together. Hunt outscored Nick Chubb in 6 of those 8 games, okay? This is very important. You got to consider that, especially in PPR platforms, 1-point PPR, which is what I play, which is the most popular platform, in my opinion. So if you're looking at Nick Chubb, and this is where his average ADP is, it's at the end of the first round, early second. So you're basically going to invest a first-round pick on a guy that is going to be splitting fantasy points with another back. Now, there is a chance that Nick Chubb becomes the guy 3 downs and then Kareem Hunt gets phased out, or there's a chance that Kareem Hunt could come in and steal the job. We don't know. There's just so much uncertainty, but I just think Kareem Hunt is too good to be ignored. Now, Nick Chubb only had 2 good games. I'm going to tell you guys this. I'm going to read out these numbers for you guys. He had 2 good games, week 12 and week 15 with Kareem Hunt there. And if you look at week 16 and 17, I think they both had bad games, but 4.5 points out of Nick Chubb, week 16, 5.2 points PPR week 17. And then if you look at a week 13 with Kareem Hunt there, 8.9 points. Week 11 with Kareem Hunt there, 9.2 points. This guy was a lot of people's RB1, RB2. So he screwed a lot of people in the playoffs last year. So I need you guys to wrap your head around that. And also, just by looking at his numbers, there was a slight decline in his attempts as well. Whereas, week 6, 8, and 9, he was getting 20 attempts per game. And then with Kareem Hunt there, you can see that drop. Week 14, 15, 16, 17, it was as follows. Week 14 was 15 attempts. Week 15 was 17 attempts. Week 16 is 15. Week 17 is 13 attempts. So where he was kind of like averaging around 20, 22 attempts per game, it started declining. So it started coming down. And that's another problem because Kareem Hunt was dipping into that. So a lot of people are saying, some of those games, Joe, when Kareem Hunt was there, Nick Chubb had 15 points and Kareem Hunt had 16 points. It was like a difference between 1 point between the two. It was almost a 50-50 split. So I'm not really concerned about Kareem Hunt, you're saying. And I'm still going to draft Nick Chubb is what you're thinking at the end of the first round, early second for 2020. And I'm going to tell you, though, if you're in a championship game, sometimes in fantasy football, these games can be decided by half a point or 0.3 of a point or 1 point difference. And if you've got a running back on the same team with your RB1 there, and he's taking half of those points, so if my Nick Chubb in the first round, let's say is putting up 15 points and he's my RB1 and the other 15 is going to Kareem Hunt, that could be a huge loss. You're losing half of the potential volume in the points because there's another guy in the committee. So I implore you, and I'm pretty good at this, and I have a good history of this. Now, let me give you an example. Last year, Odell Beckham, actually 3 years in a row, Odell Beckham, I said stay away from. Everybody said draft him round 1. Le'Veon Bell, everybody was crazy about Le'Veon Bell last year. They said, hey, Le'Veon Bell's the guy. That's what they said. Apparently, they thought he was going to perform the same way he did on the Steelers. I said, stay away from Le'Veon Bell, end of round 1. Prove that to be correct. Damian Williams, everybody was crazy on the Damian Williams show. I said, listen, Damian Williams sucks. He's been a backup for years. And if Damian Williams was so good now, they wouldn't have never acquired and drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So I've been telling you guys, I can see players that suck. Now, this is a little bit of a different situation. In no way am I saying that Nick Chubb sucks. He does not, okay? He's a great player. In fact, he's durable, fits my system. I'd like him to be more of a pass-catching back. He doesn't catch the ball as much as I'd like him to do that, but he doesn't need to because they've got Kareem Hunt there, right? If you're the Browns. So I'm going to lay out the verdict here for you guys, and it's up to you guys to make an educated decision on what you guys want to do with Nick Chubb. And before I get into that even, I want to tell you guys, this is crazy, but the mainstream, okay, and it's like everybody, the magazines, the consensus rankings, the media, the top 10 rankings, everywhere you look, are going to have Nick Chubb in the top 10. And I cannot express to you how wrong this is. And it's the misinformation and the lack of awareness. And that's why I created the 16-round draft solution, because I omit players that I feel that are in a risk like this, where I see all these red flags. I just completely stay away from that situation, and so should you. So when you're looking at Nick Chubb Fantasy Football 2020 value, you got to take a look at him and say, hey, okay, let's be objective here. Let's take a look at the situation. Let's use our brains here. Kareem Hunt is there. We saw Kareem Hunt outscore him 6 out of the 8 games when they played together in PPR. It's a PPR format. Even in standard, I'm definitely going to stay away from him, okay? So I'm going to stay away from him just because Kareem Hunt is going to be a thorn in my side all season. And where his ADP is, where Nick Chubb's ADP is right now, you're considering him as an RB1. There is a ton more guys. Josh Jacobs, who's set for a big workload. There's other guys you can get, and you can go robust RB. You can get David Johnson in the 4th round, who I love more than Nick Chubb. Okay, that's how David Montgomery I love more than Nick Chubb, just because they're going to get more volume, because the guys behind them aren't as good as Kareem Hunt. Does that make sense? And that's what I look at. I look at like a scale, okay? It's like a virtual scale I put in my mind. How much better is Nick Chubb than Kareem Hunt? The gap is, if the gap isn't like this, if it's not off the screen big in regards to difference, right? When you look at Saquon Barkley and let's say whoever his backup, Deion Lewis, right? Whoever his backup is, this is the gap, right? When I look at Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, the gap is like a lot smaller, right? It's not 10 feet wide. And that's a big consideration when you look at any depth chart, especially at wide receiver as well. You got to look at wide receivers that completely surpass the other wide receiver. I'll give you another example here. When you're looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Godwin and Evans, both similar. In fact, Godwin finished ahead of him last year in PPR. Now, when you look at that situation, Evans is obviously slated as the wide receiver 1, but Godwin is just as good. And you don't know who's going to get the ball anymore, right? So they're going to be in a situation where, like, they're both being in the top 10, but one of them is only going to finish top 10. And it depends on who Brady's going to gravitate there in Tampa Bay. Same type of situation. So the final verdict on Nick Chubb is I'm not going to draft him. I'm not. There's no way, and you shouldn't either. Now, I could be completely wrong. He can come out here, tear it up. You know, maybe Kareem Hunt comes out, gets hurt on the first play, and Nick Chubb is the workhorse running back. Or they decide, okay, well, hey, you know, Chubb's our guy. He's going to work the 3 downs, and we're going to work Kareem Hunt on passing plays out of the backfield, that type of thing. We don't know completely. But all I can tell you is that I don't believe in my heart of hearts that Kareem Hunt is going to be sidelined. I just don't see it. I see him too good of a running back to do that. Remember, this guy was a rushing leader back in 2017, I believe it was. Kareem Hunt led the league in rushing yards. So he's not a guy that you want to ignore. He's not a guy that you want to completely omit. But again, you got to look at the facts. And again, Nick Chubb, had 8 touchdowns on the ground. And I think Kareem Hunt had 2 touchdowns or so on the ground. Don't quote me, but I believe I don't have his stats up right here for Kareem Hunt's anyway. But I mean, those extra 2 touchdowns could have gone to Nick Chubb. And I think there was a receiving touchdown there as well that Kareem Hunt took away from Nick Chubb. He's going to be a thorn in your side, I assure you. They've also added Austin Hooper, who catches the ball I mean, you could say that's going to take away some volume from both running backs if they start utilizing Hooper, the same way Matt Ryan did over there in Atlanta. But when you look at the situation, there's so many red flags to stay away from Nick Chubb. And it's just one of those things where I'm going to be putting these lists out and I'll be like, hey, man, these are my top 10. And then everyone's going to say, well, where's Nick Chubb? Where's Dalvin Cook? I'll be like, you know what? I don't really put out lists based on average draft position. I don't look at fantasy football running back rankings and I base it on that. I base it on players that I feel I would draft, players that are in minimal committees, for example, with running backs, players that are going to get the volume, players that don't have a guy that's equally as good breathing down their neck in the backfield, okay? That is very important. So Nick Chubb, stay away for fantasy football 2020. It's very, very simple. I'm probably the only person that's going to tell you that. And then even if he breaks out, you're going to say, well, Joe, you told me to stay away from Nick Chubb. I did, but I also gave you another option to grab instead of Nick Chubb, okay? So that's it, guys. Make sure you guys smash that thumbs up. Hope you enjoyed the Fantasy Football Impact Series, Nick Chubb Fantasy Football Value 2020. Leave a comment below. Let me know if you're drafting Nick Chubb. Hopefully, after this type of conversation information, you're not going to touch Nick Chubb for Fantasy Football 2020. I appreciate you guys being here. Smash the thumbs up, and of course, follow on my audio below as well. Get me on audio anywhere, and I will see you guys in the next video.